Let me ask you a question. Have you and Jonathan ever gotten in a fight?
Yep.
How was that?
Jumps off his couch, gives me a people's elbow to my rib.
Wow!
And he breaks my ribs.
Oh, I was gonna say, a people's elbow is like,
He dropped
370 pounds landed on you?
That's right. That's 100% correct.
I made it through the rough time. I made it through the tough time. I made it through the bad time. So now I gotta get mine. Gotta weather the storm. Gotta get mine. Gotta weather the storm. I gotta get mine. Gotta weather the storm. Okay. One day we gon' get on. Talk to 'em. You ain't got a choice. You gotta notice.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Bailey and Buck Unplugged. We hydrate responsibly with Iconic Agua. I'm one of three iconic hosts. Robert Bailey, retired NFL player, founder of the Kennedy Kids Foundation. My other two cohorts are Bailey Brooks Mashburn, executive director to the Kennedy Kids Foundation, and she is a retired Dolphin cheerleader. And then Misty Buck, our mental health and performance coach to the Stars and to the Kennedy Kids Foundation. Now I'm happy to introduce our iconic guest, Marques Ogden, former NFL player, inspirational speaker, entrepreneur, best-selling author, CEO of Ogden Ventures, LLC. He is a three-time best-selling author. He has his own podcast, Get Authentic with Marques Ogden. He is also, I want to add, the brother of the great and massive Jonathan Ogden, Hall of Famer and Super Bowl winner. Jonathan's 6'9", 345 pounds. That leads us to our first question, but first I want to give Marques. Marques, welcome.
Welcome,
I want to give you the opportunity.
How's everybody doing? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I want to give you the opportunity to say a couple of words about the Ogden Venture LLC and say a little bit about your podcast and what you got, what you aim to, your goals and with the podcast. I want to give you an opportunity to plug yourself.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Robert, Bailey, and Misty. So Ogden Ventures LLC is a international, national keynote speaking, business coaching, corporate consulting, brand ambassador, best-selling author business. We also have a podcast called Get Authentic with Marques Ogden. We're ranked in the top 0.5% most popular podcast worldwide. We're very fortunate to have so many people love our show. You've been on our show, Robert. Misty, you've been a guest on our show. And we have real, authentic conversations with real, authentic people to inspire our audience to reach and achieve new heights.
Man, that's awesome.
I'm next.
We already got you on. We'll get you on the schedule. Don't even worry about all that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I did mention, and even though we're interviewing you, I thought it was important to mention your brother, one of the greats, one of the best at his position, I want to say, not just one of the greats, but one of the best at his position. I played with him. We won a Super Bowl together. What a massive man. He was the biggest guy on the entire team. But, the flip side to it, like myself, is, my brother, I won a Super Bowl, 2 Super Bowls, by the way, and I've done a lot of great things. But I also have an older brother who is a doctor and very, very successful. And I look up to him. And even though I've done so much in sports, I always feel like I'm still the little brother. And I feel like he still has all the light shined on him. And, I want to ask you a question. How does it feel to you? You have this success that you are doing when you played in the NFL, and now you're doing your podcast, you have your business. Do you ever feel like you were always in the shadow of your older brother? I mean, how was that growing up with such a major star in the household, and you were there fighting just to get some shine on yourself?
Well, that's a good question, Robert. So for me, with Jonathan being almost 7 years older, I didn't have to play with him, against him. I played with him with the Ravens, which was awesome. Learned so much technique, professionalism, how to play the game, the sport, the whole process. So, and our dad did a really great job making sure that when I started playing football as a freshman in high school, Jonathan was in his junior year at UCLA. Then my sophomore year was his senior year. Then my junior year, when he got drafted to the Baltimore Ravens, and he was only an hour down the road, my dad was really big in making sure that people weren't comparing us to each other. Like, well, wow, your brother is the number 4 pick overall in the 1996 NFL draft. I'm watching right now the untold murder of Steve McNair. And interestingly enough, I didn't realize McNair was drafted the year before, 95, number 3 overall out of Alcorn State, won the Heisman from that place. So again, what I think about with seeing that is how people are always going to try to compare you to others, things like that. But our dad was really big in making sure people did not do that for us. And because of that, I didn't really feel any pressure until I got to the NFL. Everybody's like, well, man, I played against your brother. He beat my ass. I want to beat yours. And I mean, until then, I didn't have any of that stuff going on.
Marques, doesn't somebody call you Job, like Jonathan Ogden's brother? Didn't somebody
Job. Yeah. So when I started playing, so I was at Howard, and one of my best friends, still to this day, Derek Coe III, who was our barber. So like, he was a barber. Like when we met, I was 18, he was 17, and I was at Howard, and like, I would go to Morgan State a lot, and like, because at Howard, girls were stuck up. I'm like, man, I don't want to talk to y'all. Like, let's go over here. So over there at Morgan State, like, yeah. So I found I had to look, I had to look fresh though. Found a barber, like, yeah. So he said, man, wait, you Job Dog's brother? I'm like, yeah. How about this? I'll call you Job. Like, sure, that'll work. And so Job stuck. And so, Derek and I have been friends. God, I'm dating myself. What's that, 25 years? Dang, quarter of a century. We've been really good friends. And yeah, that's where the term Job came from.
That is hilarious that you got a nickname. Your brother put you in his shadow for so long that you got a nickname from being in his shadow. Jonathan Ogden's brother, Job.
Yeah, I remember though. So like, it was Baltimore, and so Derek was a huge Ravens fan. So like, of course, when Jonathan, matter of fact, he would sometimes cut Jonathan's hair. He would like go to Jonathan's house in Owings Mills, and he would come and cut Jonathan's hair like at the house, so he had to go anywhere. And then from there, he got other clients, and he would cut stuff like that. He was cutting Jamal Lewis's hair a few times. So like, but being a huge Raven fan and being able to market that for your business, which was like downtown Baltimore. Man, that was big for Derek and for the entire barbershop.
That's cool, man. And I just want to say shout out to your dad for keeping everything really on, even playing field with all of you guys, making sure that everybody, treated you with respect as well. And that's what a father should do. But, just to stick to the football side of things, just recently, and this wasn't something planned, but, Tua, the Dolphins starting quarterback, had some really interesting comments he made about Coach Flores, who at the time was the head coach of the Dolphins. But he talked about how Flores really addressed him and negatively in the building, on the football field, that he was a real terrible coach. And I look at it, Marques, from a standpoint of my career, right? I had coaches from Little League to, high school to college, where that happened every day. That happened every season. In the NFL, I had coaches threaten you with being cut, sending you home, telling you your parents shouldn't have had you. I heard it all, and obviously, I'm older than Tua, and this was back in the day when a lot of things happened on the football field that are banned now. But, the question I have for you is, has that ever happened to you? Was there a particular coach that you just felt didn't like you? And no matter what you did, they had something negative to say. Even if another player did the same thing, they wouldn't say anything negative to that player, but it was just this negative, energy towards you. Did that ever happen to you? And if you could, what coach was that, or what team?
Yeah, I did have that happen to me, and it was my rookie year with my O-line coach, Paul Boudreaux, with the Jaguars. And,
wow.
Thinking back on it, he said a lot of things, put a lot of pressure on me. And, I regret not going to him and having to sit down and trying to figure out from him what it really was and what was it about. I just took the easy road out and said, well, trade me to Baltimore. And they did. And I went to Baltimore. It was fine and had a good experience. It was no problem. But looking back on it, I'm actually going to Jaguar Legends weekend in October when the Jaguars play the Colts. And I actually saw Coach Boudreaux. I want to say it's like the 2016 NFL Combine. He was actually coaching, I want to say, where was he at? The Rams? He was still coaching. I want to say either the Rams. I'm pretty sure he was with the Rams at the time. And I remember saying, hey, Coach, I really wish I would have come to you, sit down, had a man-to-man talk with you to figure out what was going on. Where was I not getting things done correctly? How could I have done better? How could I really address things in a more professional manner? And he said, Marques, I really appreciate that because I wish I would have been able to communicate with you better to help you understand. I wasn't trying to ride you, but I saw a lot in you. And I didn't really know how to inspire you other than just to kind of do what was happening to me when I was a player. Coaches yelled all the time. So you got to think, man, it's generational, right? I mean, so Flores is not a bad guy. I mean, I've met him, when he went to work with the Steelers, Steelers, nice at Minnesota. Sure, I like the guy. So but I like him as a person, right? And that's all it is. It is not personal. It's a business. They want to win. And unfortunately, when you're not winning, things end up getting more stressful, right? I mean, that's the nature of the beast. I mean, we all know Bill Belichick, 7 Super Bowls? Where's he at now?
Oh, yeah.
You guys have this thing that I didn't know about that women live with every day, but you apparently have it in the sports world, is where you're being compared to other players and you're not good enough and compared to what you were saying, Robert. And I was following along, and the whole time I'm thinking, yeah, this is what women live through every single day. Your hair's not good enough. You're fat. You're this, you're that. But it's not like a talent to be a woman. Well, actually, it kind of is a talent to be a woman. No man would survive this job, but then Marques gets down to the end part where he's like, oh, it's a business, and I'm like, oh, there it is. They're not like us. I was about to be like, they not like us, Misty. They not like us.
No, I mean, we don't have what you all. We don't have what you all have, and we do the best that we can. I mean, we know that we're second class when it comes to women. We get that, and I'm fine with that. But what I also understand is that in football, it is a man's game. I mean, honestly, that's what it is. If you don't want to do something and be in a hard situation, training camp, heat, all this stuff, having somebody try to tear your head off every minute, second of the day, then don't play football. It's not a nice game.
I agree with that.
It's not a nice game. It is a game of barbaric behavior, trying to hurt people, trying to, score. It's fair game out there. I mean, again, this is people's livelihood. So either you don't like it, you don't have to play it. I mean, it's just really that simple.
Moms, you heard it here first on the Bailey and Buck show. You heard it here first. It's barbaric. And if it's not, everybody doesn't get a trophy. Everybody doesn't get to win. It's football.
Right.
But I hear this happening at the little league level. But I have a friend whose son plays multiple sports, and she says the coaching in football is like that versus where he's in baseball and soccer and a million other things. She's like, it's just that way in football.
Yeah, it's because you have to get these kids ready that when you go out into the field, step onto the field, people with different colored jerseys on are going to try to hurt you. Like,
Yeah.
that's what it is. I mean, tackling is not nice. Like, I forgot what running back who had the injury where he got tackled in the shoulder, him in the knee, and like the guy went out, and everybody's like, oh man, why did he hit him that low? And he didn't have to, I'm like, what's he gonna do? Like, I watched this thing with Aaron McNair. If Aaron McNair went on a draw or like on a sweep, if he saw a cornerback or a safety, boom, he was coming at him full speed, head down, ready to go to war.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's what it was. And so this is what it is. If you don't want to play it, then don't step on the field, because it is a very violent game.
Yeah. Marques, I just want to say, I'm glad you got the opportunity to meet him again. A lot of guys get cut by coaches that treat them, in that manner, and they go on to another team, or they end up going home and they never get the opportunity to confront that coach. For me, the interesting thing is the one coach that was the most disrespectful, that said the craziest things, is probably the coach I'm the closest with today, and the one I still continue to communicate with, because I honestly think he played a part in my toughness and my confidence and my discipline. I think most coaches, they're trying to get something out of you, and all three of those align with that. So to me, having the opportunity to see him again and address that, and him tell you that he wish he could have maybe did it a different way, but he saw something in you. I think at the end of the day, they all see something in us, but they were treated that way or coached that way, so they try to, identify with that and use it in their coaching. But that's typically how it is in football. Football is a sport, as you mentioned.
On this,
yeah, a lot.
You both became super successful players, and so everybody's going to be like, oh, well, I was just trying to push you along. I mean, now that you're talking to me as a 2-time Super Bowl national champion, of course I'm going to be your friend. Of course I'm going to love you. Of course I'm going to be like, oh, I was just doing that to help you and better you. And that's that. That's that abusive mentality as well.
It is an abusive mentality. It is
That's
abusive.
a good point. That's an excellent point. It really is. That's an excellent point. I don't coach that way. When I coach to teach. Like, I used to coach at Campbell for 1 year under Mike Minter, who was a safety in the NFL for Carolina Panthers. Mike was a good coach. Like, he would teach you. So again, I never picked up that habit. I got yelled at a lot by my head coach and in high school. And then in college, I had a good coach, Fred Dean, who played in the NFL with the Redskins. He was a good teacher. Then Jack Del Rio was a great head coach. So, I mean, I've been around a lot of great coaches, and I never took that yelling, and I just never did that, because I've coached kids now. I don't believe in that. To me, if you're yelling at kids, their minds shut down. When they shut down,
100%.
Learn
100%. Some kids either take that type of coaching and they thrive with it, or they go into a shell. It sounded like you thrived off of it. I thrived off of it, but there's got to be other people that went into a shell. And I think that's a part of the mental aspect of it, right? So the mental health aspect, I'm sure Misty, who's our mental health professional, could identify with this. I'm sure that it still had a mental effect on you, So I feel sorry for a lot of the kids that go into a shell and actually it ends up hurting them mentally.
So isn't it like 0.0003% of like athletes that want to play football actually make it to the NFL?
I don't know the percentage, but it's low.
It's 0.003%. I saw this stat maybe a few years ago. I don't know if it's increased, but even if it's just 1%, you've got the other 99% who were mentally like yelled at that actually didn't make it. And it's like, where are they now? What did they struggle through? Like Marques, for you going through all that coaching, because I know Robert really well, but like for you going through all that coaching and the yelling and the screaming and the building up of your character because you're a man, like how does that translate into your life after football and all of the things that you experienced just on your journey?
That's a great question, Bailey. So I will say that what I went through has made me a tougher individual to get things done and more disciplined than most people, because now I take that attitude into my work. I mean, I work a lot. Here we are doing a podcast, a little bit later. I've been working since 8 o'clock in the morning. That's who I am. And I'm excited to be here because you are all friends of mine. You guys are all good people. Love the show. Love the concept. It's going to be phenomenal. But that's the way you have to work. You can't just say, oh, I'll work from 8 to 3 or 9 to 4 if you own a business. It's not going to work that way. If you want to lose weight, you can't say, oh, I'll work out twice a week and then I'll go eat crap 5 times a week and then I'm going to be just A-okay. Doesn't work that way, right? So I will say what I went through has made me a stronger, better person. And through losing all my business, my home, my cars, all my money, moving to Raleigh, not knowing anybody, getting to where I am today, without the NFL, what I went through, and actually football in general, but also the NFL with that extra layer of like real hard, because it's a business at that point. Like this now, college football is also a business. You can make money at it. NIL, Mike Gundy told Oklahoma State players, stop worrying about the money, guys. You know what? We'll shut you all up. Here's a QR code at the back of your helmet. We'll make some money, make plays. You will at the end of the game, oh, I made it. It's great. Well, great, make plays. Don't come to me about money. And so, but now college football, it's a business, right? Because you make money. We didn't have that when we were playing in college. So the NFL is a different level because it's now money is at stake. So that's what you're going to see in college football too. Again, why do you think Nick Saban left? That's my opinion. Nick Saban didn't want to deal with all the BS of like, players wanting this, players wanting that, players wanting this, players wanting millions of dollars. I mean, should they say Shadur Harris makes like, what, $10 million a year? Deion's son at Colorado is making like $10 million a year as a college football player. He'll make more in college than he will in the NFL if he gets there. You know what I mean? So again, that's just the way it is now. It's a different world. So if you're listening to this podcast, what football, the NFL did for me, made me an individual that could handle whatever life throws at me.
Well, where do you think your dad got that? Because I mean, during the pre-interview questions, one of the things that I was like overwhelmed, is so impressed by was when I asked about, your mom leaving early on in your life and like how you guys dealt with that. And your response was that your dad immediately put you guys in therapy. And I don't know most men that are even willing to go to therapy for themselves, let alone after losing their wife, knowing to put their children through that. So like, where do you think your dad got that from?
So our dad played football at Howard, and our grandfather had a 3rd grade education. He was a truck driver, a hard-working truck driver. So he was giving our father a lot of those very disciplined, do your things, do right type of mentality. And when my dad got to college, his first semester, he decides to screw around and become like a pool shark. My grandfather found out and came and told him, hey, if you don't get yourself squared away, I'm going to pull you out of college. My dad shaped up, and through that at Howard and what he learned from his coaches at a high level, and my grandfather, our dad became a very disciplined individual. And then when our parents divorced, he stepped up and said, well, again, you want to leave Cassandra as my mother? That's fine. The boys are staying with me. He raised us to be exactly like he was. And that's why Jonathan and I are exactly like we are, because our dad made sure we were going to continue what our grandfather taught him. He was going to teach us and not teach it to my kids. Jonathan teaches it to his kids. And that's just the way it goes.
That's great, man. Let me ask you a question. Have you and Jonathan ever gotten in a fight?
Yep.
How was that? Do you remember that? Tell me a little bit about that.
We were playing around one time. So I was 20 and he was 20. I was 21. He was 27, about to turn 28.
Was that your first fight?
I mean, we were wrestling. I mean, he's 7 years old, so we didn't fight at that. We was messing around, but we had like a play plan. We never fought. Okay. That regard. But we decided to have a wrestling play fight match. We were wrestling, throwing around, and he decides to throw me against the rope, and we didn't have one. We made an imaginary rope.
Did Marques?
And then he threw me on the ground, and then he's 6'9". At the time, he was probably 375. Decides
oh my God.
On the couch, gets on his couch, jumps off his couch, gives me a people's elbow to my rib,
wow.
and he breaks my ribs.
Oh, wow. I was gonna say a people's elbow is like
He dropped
370 pounds landed on you.
That's right. That's 100% correct.
And what happened after that? Were you just done?
So after that, I was like, man, you know what? If either we're gonna fight for real or we're done, because I'm not playing with you anymore. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I'm at the hospital,
Right.
all this type of stuff. Like, I was out of football for like 2 months.
Wow. Is this the first time you're telling this story?
No, I've told it a couple times, but like, you know, it's something people ask, did you ever have a fight? Like, well, we never fought, but then we played around. But then after that, we never ever, I was like, nope, like if we fight, it's gonna be for real. I'm not gonna have you like, I'm not gonna sit there with you, the people's elbow me off the couch and then sit there and wait like a dummy. I'm not doing that again.
Your big brother must have felt so bad doing that to you, man.
He didn't. He was like, okay. He's like, you know what, man, my bad. I'm like, my bad.
My bad. That was it.
My bad. That's it. Okay, I got you. Don't go sleep tonight. I got you. We're good.
That's a great story, man. That's a great story. I mean, I would never think Jonathan would do that because he's so mild-mannered.
That's right?
Quiet. Guys, if you guys ever met, I don't know Bailey and Misty if you guys ever met his older brother, but he is a massive man. I mean, when we run out of the tunnel, he's the biggest one out of the whole entire football team. I mean, it is massive. And just hearing Marques say that Jonathan jumped, guys, he jumped in the air. The people's elbow, for people who don't know, is when in the ring, they jump from the top of the ring with their elbow and land on the opponent who's laying on the ground.
That's right.
Like and he did this to his brother and broke his ribs. And it's not but ribs, multiple ribs.
Mm-hmm.
That I wouldn't survive that.
Jonathan on
We gotta get Jonathan. We gotta get Jonathan on the show to talk about that.
I want both sides of the story. Yeah, I want both sides of the story.
I mean, he's not gonna say he didn't because he remembers doing it. I mean, I don't remember why. We were just messing around, and next thing you know, boom! Like, well, we won't do that again.
It sounds like you guys were super close, though. You know?
Oh yeah, we're still close to this day. I mean,
reparations.
Yeah.
I mean, now with him being 50, I don't know. It would be his recovery time would suck now.
Yeah. That'll be bad. That would be really, really
I love
bad.
that you got this nickname Job though, which is so funny to me because it's like not what you do now. Like you do not have a job. Like you own a business, you own a company, you've started several, but like the nickname was Job, and it's like the one thing you actually don't work a 9 to 5.
And he's no longer in his brother's shadow, by the way. Marques is like his own brand, his own whole sphere of like whole universe.
He's become the mob now. He's like Marques Ogden business. The mob.
Mob. I love it. That's awesome.
That's your new nickname. Yeah, the real MOB is on the show now.
Mob Deep. Mob Deep.
You know, just to on the Bailey and Buck show, we all came together because of the Kennedy Kids Foundation. The Kennedy Kids Foundation was formed because of me losing my daughter to suicide, and we decided we wanted to help other teens, in the community about mental health awareness and the education and the resources out there, trying to prevent suicide. One of the questions that we like to ask our guests is, have you had any experience mental health wise, suicide wise, and yourself or anyone in your family? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had a lot of issues with mental health after my father passed away. And I really didn't know how to deal with it. And I was I was 25 years old, but he died very, very suddenly. And I had deep depression issues. I had dark thought issues. I had suicidal issues. I didn't know what to do, where to go. I wasn't married at the time. I didn't have anybody to really lean on. Jonathan was married, but struggling with it as well. So it was really a lot of difficulty. It was very arduous. It was very dark. And then I had some other difficult thoughts after I lost my business. When I moved to Raleigh after losing all my money, everything that I own, and having to start over from scratch. That was 2013. And that was hard, and that was difficult, and that was very arduous and dark. And again, just depressing, having to start over from the bottom, like complete rock bottom with absolutely nothing I had $4 in my name, not a good name, didn't know anybody, nothing. And now I am where I'm at now. But when I first got to Raleigh, it was very, very difficult to get things going in that regard.
That's tough, man. That's tough. And you fought through it. During the time, did you go and seek any therapy? What was kind of like your journey?
I got into therapy through the Baltimore Ravens after our father passed away, which was very difficult. And then I started seeing a therapist in 2013 through the NFL Trust. And then after my divorce, which was 2022, I filed in July, I ended up starting going to therapy at that time as well. And I still am in therapy for that. So I actually had to call my therapist actually today, just talking about life and, and trying to pick up the pieces, and I'm doing great now. But, you just always want to talk things out. Like, how's life going? How's this going? How's that going? I mean, to me, if you're going good or you need help, just talking things out is always just a good thing to do. So I've always been really big into that, because if it sits on your chest or sits in your soul, it can just fester. And from there, that's when the problems start to arise.
That's interesting. I could relate. I think everyone should use a mental health therapist. Misty, my co-host, she's a expert on it. Misty, what are your thoughts on Marques's journey, and what do you, for the people out there listening, what can you lend?
I mean, I think what's amazing about Marques is that we look at the little bit that he shared with us about his history and the way that he grew up with this attitude of perseverance, but also not being ashamed when you have a hard time. Go talk to somebody, which is the complete opposite of what a lot of us learn, by the way, for one reason or another. I think in the sports world in particular, I mean, that was one thing that I struggled with a lot when I was going through a lot of the mental health challenges that I faced, is this total shame of I'm weak, I'm soft, like all these things that people used to say to me. Because I am one of those people that words will hurt me. So, I'm super sensitive, wear my heart on my sleeve, it's there, right? So I understand that part. But what I think what's so amazing about Marques is that he has always found a way to persevere. And he has a whole keynote speech about this, about how the ego can impair so many things, right? So Marques, like, don't you have like a whole keynote about your ego and about how it can impair the decisions that you're making, and it can impair your mental health in a way, because it can keep you from getting help and just talking to somebody, right? So I think I give you so much credit, Marques, for continuing to not give up on yourself, to always to fight for yourself. And you talk about all the basics of all these things, and you just keep going. So I think through therapy, and then if someone like me, when I'm working with a mental health coach or working with somebody who maybe I can't diagnose you and do all the clinical stuff, right? That's not my lane. But I can certainly be a place that helps you that understands that experience, that understands, that's a place to listen, to give you a confidential space. I think that's really important. That's the things that people get really nervous about. But when you go to somebody, look for that confidentiality piece, right? Because you want to feel safe, right? We talk about this all the time, Marques, a safe, supportive, confidential space, right? So anyway, so I don't know if you guys have like thoughts on that, but I did have a question for you, Marques, in terms of, you've been getting therapy, you've been you've done all these things that you have done to persevere, right? Even at your lowest lows, you have found a way to dig in and persevere. So how are you able to persevere? Like, what influenced you to persevere at all those different points in your life? Because this is at the first time was before you even had kids, right? So I think so. Like, what made you persevere? And then number two, like, what's the best piece of mental health advice you ever received?
How I've been able to persevere is I really do three things. I focus, I lock in, and I attack. So I focus on what I want things to be. I focus on where I want to take my energy and put my energy to get out of that spot, right? Because everything's temporary in reality, right? Nothing lasts forever unless you allow it to last forever. I tell my clients, you have a bad day, don't make it a bad, don't make it a bad, 2 days, a bad week, a bad month. Don't do that to yourself. You have a bad moment, let it go, move on, right? So nothing is permanent. Everything is temporary, right? Your mindset, now you love to have a permanent, strong mindset, but it takes time to become that person. But I talk about that in talks too, but you got to focus. Number two, you got to lock in. When you understand what you want, lock in on the target, and then that's where you have to attack. Go after it. Action is the foundation of every successful person, from Elon Musk to Jeff Bezos to Richard Branson to Dr. King to Nelson Mandela. It doesn't matter who they are. Everyone that's had success took action. You can't have success sitting on the sideline. You got to get in the game, right? You got to get in the game. Figure out what you're hungry for. What is the hunger you have to do whatever it is in your life you want to do? And then go after it. Don't sit around, don't wait. It's not going to come to you. It's not going to come to you. You have to go and get it. Seek, knock, go and get. And so the best piece of mental health advice I ever got was learning to tell people what was happening in my life when I was struggling and I was at my darkest. Isolation, depression, all these negative things, anxiety, what do they love? What do they feed off of? You staying to yourself, right? When you're anxious or you're stressed or you're feeling depressed or blue, if you're not talking to anybody, you're just sitting in a chair or in a little ball, they're like, yes, we got them. They got nowhere to go. And unfortunately, that's when suicide starts to really manifest, because you're not telling anybody. You're not talking to anybody. You're not getting it off your chest. You're not getting it out of your mind. It's just sitting there, right? Les Brown says, garbage in, garbage stays.
Right.
Period.
Yeah.
Period. But
Marques,
we gotta get out of our own way. So
Yeah, you said a couple really important things there that I just want to quickly recap, and then Bailey, I'll let you take it away. But
I just wanted Marques to say what he'd been through, because I don't think we covered that at any point in the show. So he, like, what he just explained is, like, I don't think anyone knows that. Like, we didn't talk about the divorce, his mom leaving at 8 years old, the bankruptcy, like his brother got 132 Division I offers. He got one. Like all this stuff, all the adversity. And Marques has like a really good way of packaging up in like 30 seconds. So I just wanted you to share that part, Marques, real quick with our audience.
So I love what you said, Billy. And again, that, we're going to talk about that when we work together, the custom suit, right? So from DC, went to Howard University, got drafted, played in the NFL, struggled immensely after my career was over, had all kinds of addiction issues and painkiller issues and this horrible issues. Finally got into construction, built a massive, successful, multiple 8-figure construction company annually, lost it all after building it. It took me 5 years to build it, lost it all in 90 days. No money, no friends, no home, no cars. Wow. And I got to Raleigh, started completely over from the bottom, fired from 2 jobs in the same week. Had to go become a custodian working in downtown Raleigh for $8.25 an hour. Had my rock bottom moment. Somebody's trash, rotten meat, and nasty protruding garbage got over my body, my skin, and my clothes. That woke me up. Started speaking in 2013. Didn't get a paid job for 2.5 years. Finally got my first paid job April 2016. I got coached. I got developed. I went through all this, had great success, turned my career around, started speaking. 2022, I had to file for divorce. I then had to move out, moved into a 2-bedroom apartment. I had issues. I struggled with mental health and anxiety and stress and depression. But I started talking to people, Misty being one of them, got off my chest. Then I got myself refocused, realigned, bought my dream home 7 months after filing for divorce. And now here I am, working all the time on myself, becoming the best version of myself, being around great people, and focusing on what really matters most. Great people, and I call it venture out, and you need to find your tribe. Your vibe attracts your tribe. So if you're struggling, get up, get out, and go and talk to somebody. That's gonna get you in a better state of mind.
Yeah.
That deserves a round of applause.
It does.
Yes, congratulations. Look, you got
It
standing
does.
ovation from
It
Robert.
does. It does. But let's quickly recap this journey, all right? And all the things that Marques just said in about 10 seconds, right?
Yeah.
So what did he talk about? He talked about, for everyone who's listening, you might be going through your own set of challenges, no matter what your age is or where you're at. Keep in mind what he said, 2 really key things. One is that challenges are temporary. They are always temporary. There are always solutions. There are always options. When you're at your lowest low, you may think, I have no options. I have nowhere to go. So you start to isolate, or you start to get really down on yourself, or you start to think, I don't know how I'm going to get to tomorrow. But you have to step back and understand that every single challenge is temporary, and that there are always solutions, quite often more than we can potentially see in the moment, right? So that's number one. And then the other piece that I think that was really important is talk to somebody. Don't isolate, open up, fight for yourself. It's not being weak to talk to somebody else. It's fighting for yourself. It's standing up. It's being really tough, because it is really hard to have conversations and be vulnerable. So do that for yourself. Don't isolate, talk. Remember, everything is temporary, and open up to other people.
Well, I'm really glad that he found you as his coach, Misty, and I'm super excited that we also found you for our board, because I know you met Robert on Instagram, and it was so amazing to be able for us to find you. So it really sounds like you came into Marques's life at a very pivotal point. And so I'm enjoying working with you, Misty, and just learning more about through this mental health journey that we're both on. And I think it's amazing that also our iconic guest has joined this iconic team and Iconic Agua. We thank you as well for sponsoring the show. One more time, I just want to shout them out.
Thank you, Iconic.
Yeah.
Marques,
So
we
does
want
anyone
to
have
thank
any more
you.
questions for Marques? Anything else, Marques, you want to leave us with before we close out today's show?
I'll just say one last thing. If a problem arises in your life, don't look at it, look through it. There's always a solution on the other side. Don't look at it, look through it. The solution to that problem is just over yonder. Don't give up on yourself. Don't quit on yourself. Don't take your own life. Don't live of the shame and guilt, all that. You are a good person. You deserve greatness. But again, to get to that point, look through a problem, not at a problem.
We love you, Marques.
Today. We love you, Marques.
Love you guys.
We
Thanks
should
for
have you
having me.
on
I
the show every
appreciate
week, Marques. We love you. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate
Marques,
it.
real quickly, how can people reach you?
They can go to our app. You can go to your phone and type in Marques Ogden in your app store, and you can download our free app. It's got free inspirational messages. It's got, to our website, to our podcast. Just go to your app store, type in MarquesOgden. It pops right up. It's free. You can follow us.
I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to do that right now.
Real MLB.
Thank you so much.
Is lovely when the sun is out. We
Thanks for
try to
having me,
have a
guys.
good time is what I'm talking about. Cookouts, barbecues, and the fish fries. Blue lights, basement parties, I ain't never lied. Okay, I made it through the rough time. I made it through the tough time.